Silver just hit above $93 an ounce, and analysts are now openly talking about a run to $100. Not someday, not in some distant future scenario, right now, this week. Because of what is happening between Israel and Iran, the global financial system is being stress tested in real time, and silver might be the single most important asset you can own in the next 30 days. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why this moment could be a turning point that most investors will only recognize in hindsight. Welcome back to Silver Signals, everyone. I'm your host, Yali Jiang, and if you are new here, first of all, welcome. You picked a great day to find this channel. We talk about silver, gold, precious metals, and real wealth building strategies for people all around the world who want to protect what they've earned and grow it intelligently. If that sounds like you, hit that subscribe button right now and ring the notification bell, because the kind of analysis we're doing today is exactly what this channel is built for. And for those of you who've been here before, you already know. Let's get into it. Today we are going to break down something that is moving markets as we speak. The escalating tension between Israel and Iran has just sent shockwaves through global financial markets. We're going to talk about what that means for crude oil prices, what it means for the US stock market, what it means for currencies like the Iranian Rial and the Israeli shekel, and most importantly, what it means for silver and gold, and whether silver is genuinely setting up for a historic move toward $100 an ounce. This is not hype, this is analysis, so let's go. Let me start by painting the picture of what is actually happening right now in global markets, because context matters enormously here. Last week, the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 1.3%, the S&P 500 dropped 0.4%, and the Nasdaq fell by almost 1%. Now, on the surface, those numbers might sound small, but here's what you need to understand. Those drops happened before the full weight of this geopolitical situation was priced in. What we are seeing right now is the market in the early stages of processing a conflict that has the potential to fundamentally disrupt global energy supply. And energy, my friends, is the bloodstream of the entire global economy. This is not a drill. This is a live, unfolding situation that every serious investor needs to be watching closely right now. Brent crude and WTI crude were sitting comfortably around $67 to $68 a barrel just before tensions started escalating. And already, we've seen prices tick up roughly 2%, and analysts are now warning that any disruption to the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which roughly 20% of the world's oil supply flows, could push crude prices well above $80 a barrel almost overnight. Some estimates suggest a $4 to $8 spike immediately if that strait is threatened. And pause on that for a second, because we're talking about a choke point in global trade that, if compromised, doesn't just affect the Middle East. It affects Japan, South Korea, India, Europe, the United States, and it affects you, wherever you are watching this in the world, because oil prices feed directly into inflation, transportation costs, food prices, and the cost of manufacturing almost everything. Now here's where it gets really interesting for us as precious metals investors, and this is the part I want you to really lock in on. Geopolitical crises don't just push oil higher. They push investors into safe havens, and historically, not sometimes, not occasionally, but consistently throughout modern financial history, the two most powerful safe haven assets during times of global uncertainty are gold and silver. Gold is currently sitting around $5,300 per ounce on COMEX, and analysts believe that sustained safe haven buying could push it even higher from here as this situation develops. But silver, and this is why we're here. Silver is the one I want you to focus on most. Silver is currently trading above $93 an ounce, and that is already an elevated price reflecting a market that is nervous, that is hedging, that is looking for protection. Now here is the critical technical level that every precious metals trader on the planet is watching right now, $95. And if silver can close convincingly above $95 per ounce and hold that level, the momentum traders come in, the algorithmic buyers come in, the institutional hedgers come in, and the psychological magnet of $100, a perfectly round number that human psychology is absolutely drawn to, starts pulling the price upward with a force that can feel almost gravitational. I want to ask you something right here, and I genuinely want to know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think silver breaks $100 this year, and have you already started positioning yourself in silver because of what's happening geopolitically? Drop your thoughts down below. Tell me where you're from, tell me what you're holding, because this community spans the entire globe and your perspective matters here. I read these comments, I respond when I can, and sometimes your comments literally shape the topics we cover next. So talk to me. This is your channel as much as it is mine, and I want to hear from every single one of you watching right now. Now let's zoom out for a moment and talk about why silver in particular responds so powerfully to these kinds of crises. Because it's not just about fear. There's a dual engine driving silver, and most people only understand half of it. The first engine is the safe haven demand we've been talking about. When the world feels unstable, people buy silver. They always have, and it's a 5,000-year-old habit built into human civilization. But the second engine is industrial demand. Silver is used in solar panels, in electric vehicles, in semiconductors, in medical devices, in water purification systems. The industrial demand for silver is not going away. If anything, the global energy transition is making it more critical every single year. And so, when you combine a fear-driven safe haven spike on top of already strong structural industrial demand, you get the conditions for a truly explosive price move. That's the setup we're potentially looking at right now. Both engines are firing at the same time, and that is what makes this moment so different from a typical market correction or a typical safe haven trade. This is the kind of convergence that creates generational opportunities for investors who are paying attention. And here's something that most mainstream financial news won't tell you, because they're too focused on oil and stocks. The currency markets are already telling us a story. The Iranian Rial has now hit an unprecedented low, exchanging at approximately 1,749,500 rials per US dollar on the open market. To put that in context, at the beginning of January this year, the rate was around 1,350,000 rials per dollar, and that is a drop of approximately 30% in just a matter of weeks. 30%? Think about what that means for ordinary Iranian citizens watching their savings evaporate in real time. The British pound now exchanges at over 2,350,000 rials, the euro at over 2,067,000 rials. And this currency collapse is not just a statistic. It is a human story of wealth destruction happening right now, and it is a reminder of exactly what happens when a nation's economy becomes untethered from stable assets. On the other side, the Israeli shekel has shown remarkable resilience, staying relatively stable within its recent range of 3.09 to 3.14 against the dollar. Analysts attribute this to Israel's strong economic fundamentals and large foreign currency reserves, a reminder that reserve assets matter and that sound fundamentals and real stores of value create stability even in the middle of a crisis. That's a lesson worth sitting with, because what protects a nation's currency in a crisis is the same principle that protects an individual's wealth: real assets, real value, and sound fundamentals that don't evaporate when confidence does. Now let's talk about what this means for markets in the very near term, particularly in Asia and emerging markets, because if you're watching from India, Southeast Asia, or other oil-importing nations, you are on the front line of this economic impact. India, for example, imports roughly 85% of its crude oil needs, with around 55% of those imports coming from the Middle East, and Russian supplies making up another 21%. If oil spikes hard above $80, India faces a painful combination of currency pressure on the rupee, rising inflation, widening trade deficits, and potential fiscal strain on government budgets. That's not a small deal. That's a macro headwind that can drag stock markets lower even as precious metals rise. And this divergence, stocks and paper assets under pressure while hard assets like silver and gold climb, is a pattern we've seen play out in virtually every major geopolitical disruption of the past 50 years. What should you be watching? Crude oil's overnight movements are going to be the key signal, and if crude holds above $72 to $75 and pushes toward $80, that's when the second leg of the precious metals move becomes much more likely. Watch also for any diplomatic headlines, because markets can reverse fast on de-escalation news. We've seen it before. A single statement from a foreign minister can send oil down $3 and take some of the fear premium out of gold and silver temporarily. That's not a reason to panic. Short-term volatility is the cost of admission to these moves. The investors who win in precious metals are the ones who understand the macro picture, who don't get shaken out by the daily noise, and who hold their position because they understand why they own silver in the first place. And now, I want to give you the insight that I think is going to be the most valuable thing you take away from this entire video. Are you ready? Because this is the part that most people, even experienced investors, tend to miss. Here it is. We keep talking about silver at $100 as if it's an outrageous number, a ceiling, a fantasy target that only exists in the wildest bull case scenarios. But let me reframe that completely. In inflation-adjusted terms, silver's historic high from 1980, the Hunt Brothers episode, for those who know their precious metals history, translates to roughly $500 per ounce in today's money. $500. So when we're sitting here talking about whether silver can reach $100, we're not talking about some unprecedented moonshot. We're talking about silver reaching 20% of its inflation-adjusted all-time high. 20%. Let that sink in. The narrative that silver at $100 is extreme is wrong, and what's actually extreme is how undervalued silver has been relative to its historical precedent and relative to the monetary expansion we've seen since 2008, since 2020, continuing into today. The gold to silver ratio, The number of ounces of silver it takes to buy 1 ounce of gold has historically averaged around 15 to 16 to 1, going back centuries. Right now, with gold at 5,300 and silver above 93, we're still looking at a ratio of roughly 57 to 1. And historically speaking, silver is still significantly undervalued relative to gold. If that ratio were to normalize toward even 40 to 1, not the historic average, just 40, silver would need to be at $132 per ounce with gold at current prices. And if it normalized toward the historic average of 16 to 1, we're talking about silver at over $300. I'm not saying that happens next week. I'm saying that the fundamental case for silver is far stronger than the daily price action suggests. And geopolitical crises like this one have historically been the kind of catalysts that wake the market up to exactly that undervaluation. So here we are, coming back to where we started. Silver above $93, a potential run to 95, and eyes on 100 as a psychological and technical magnet. A geopolitical situation between Israel and Iran that is injecting fear and uncertainty into a global economy, already wrestling with inflation, debt, and energy transition. Crude oil prices are threatening to spike in ways that hurt oil importing nations and push inflation higher. Currency markets are showing exactly what happens to paper money when trust breaks down. And silver, real, physical, 5,000-year-old silver, is sitting at a historically undervalued level against gold, against inflation, against its own precedent, ready to potentially make a move that catches most people completely off guard. What does that mean for you? It means this is a moment to pay attention. Not to panic, not to make rash decisions, but to educate yourself, to understand the forces at work, and to position thoughtfully based on your own financial situation and risk tolerance. I'm not your financial advisor. Please do your own research and please talk to a professional if you need to. But I will tell you this. The people who understood silver's role as a monetary metal and a safe haven asset before the crisis was obvious were the ones who captured the most value when the move came. That's always how it works. The ones who win are not the ones who react. They are the ones who prepare. And by watching this video today, you are already doing something that the vast majority of people will never do, which is taking the time to understand what is really happening in the global economy and what it means for your financial future. If this video gave you genuine value, if it shifted the way you're thinking about what's happening in the world right now and what it means for your financial future, then do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need to hear this kind of analysis. And if you're not subscribed yet, this is the moment, because we cover silver, gold, market trends, and real wealth building strategies here at Silver Signals every week. And with the world moving as fast as it is right now, you do not want to miss what's coming next. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. And drop a comment below. Seriously, I want to hear from you. Do you think silver hits $100 this year? Are you buying physical silver right now, or are you waiting? Tell me where you're watching from and what your strategy is, because this is a global community and your perspective adds real value to every conversation we have here. I'm Yali Jiang. Thank you for being here. Stay informed, stay grounded, stay focused on real value, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Sonnet 4.6.